Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. I'm going to call to order the virtual regular monthly meeting of the Sister Bay Village Board. Janelle, will you handle roll call, please?
Zashki,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
is Bell here yet? I don't think so. Berto,
Here.
Duffy? Not yet. Kadunko
Not yet.
and Nino.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum and we can proceed. For those of you who would like to join us, we're going to stand, and on the count of three, we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to ask for I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum that item number 4 is moving to closed session.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. I will motion that we approve both the minutes as published for the January 18th and January 26th board meetings.
I'll
Second.
second those.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're going to have Janelle summarize correspondence in just a moment. I would just like to mention ahead of time for those of our citizens who have participated in these meetings in the past. You may recall that it's common practice when we get to comments and concerns from the public that we note we would take comments and concerns on a non-agenda item, understanding the concern in the community about the short-term rental discussion that's limited to board trustees and staff on the agenda tonight. I will expand and allow any comments or concerns to be addressed by any members of the public on the call. But just please keep in mind, we'll listen intently to your comments, but we won't be engaging in any dialogue with anyone making commentary. So I will ask Janelle to summarize correspondence first.
Okay, so there was a thank you letter that was received from Steve Jenkins, the executive director of the DC EDC, for the donation that the village made to the DC EDC's annual investor campaign. Then there was a letter that was received from Ann Renard, the chair of the board of directors for the DC EDC. In her letter, Ms. Renard indicates that Steve Jenkins has resigned as the executive director of that organization and will be leaving his post on June 3rd. Ms. Renard stresses that Mr. Jenkins' decision to leave had nothing to do with the organization, the staff members, or the DC EDC board. It was a decision that was based upon a personal matter. There was a funding guide that was prepared by Finley, the consulting firm that was hired by the DC EDC to conduct the broadband infrastructure engineering assessment. We received a letter and shore protection permit from the DNR for the Zog property that is located at 2468 Sunnyside Road. There was also.
Mel, could I break in a second? That
Sure.
is Warren, that should be Warren Zog. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know where the DNR got that name, but
Okay.
and also that work has been completed and all contingencies have been cleared up. So we're set on that.
Okay. Then there was a thank you letter that was received from the Door County Coastal Byway Commission for the donation the village made for website redesign project. There was a press release that was received from the Door County Fire Chiefs Association. And in that document, Chief Chris Hecht of the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Department indicates that an anonymous donor has made a matching fund challenge and will donate up to $75,000 so that funds can be raised for the purchase of several automatic external defibrillators that will be placed in key locations throughout the county. Finally, there was a thank you letter that was received from the Sister Bay Historical Society for the matching funds donation that the village made to the Little Sister Resort project. Now, Rob, I did receive 2 letters concerning the short-term rental regulations. Do you want me to read them now or read them during that agenda item? You're on mute.
Yeah, let's read them now, Janelle.
Okay. First, there was a letter from Michael Surveys. My name is Michael Surveys. I have been a full-time resident of Door County for over 14 years. We have been operating 2 short-term rentals for over 11 years. In those 11 years, we have only had 1 complaint from a neighbor about a guest that was parking on a street, which does not allow parking, and we resolved that with a simple phone call to the guest. This is the same experience the vast majority of STR owners have had. As Door County aims to address how best to properly manage the volume of visitors in Door County and what ordinances to put in place in each municipality, we want to be sure the voice of those who own short-term rentals is heard. We love Door County and our neighborhoods and want to be good neighbors and citizens. As we have worked with other towns, we found that we have a lot in common and have significant agreement on how best to address issues brought to the town board's attention. It's important to note the vast majority of homes that host guests have wonderful relations with their neighbors. In fact, many of the neighbors rent those properties for special family gatherings. But as we all know, a small percentage of bad apples can damage the reputation of the vast majority. Just like you, we think those hosts that don't properly manage their properties well should be held accountable. We agree with noise, parking, and occupancy limitations and enforcement. And we also believe in the tourism zone good neighbor best practices. To that end, we have formed the Door County Vacation Rental Association to provide education and have a Facebook page. Home Sharing Hosts of Door County with over 400 members. Door County Vacation Rental Association aim is to enhance home sharing experiences for hosts, neighbors, and guests through education, best practices, and creating a more welcoming and equitable home sharing community. Many of us have been in Door County for generations. We invest in and care for our homes. We have a high priority on being good neighbors. We want to be part of the solution for Sister Bay and request to work together with you to develop solutions that are well-informed and advance our shared priorities. We'd be happy to share a model ordinance we've developed working with other towns. I know mutually beneficial solutions that reflect what's best for all residents and guests in Sister Bay are achievable. Below are some areas of the current draft ordinance we'd like to discuss. Section 5, sub 8A. I agree with, we would like to have more clarity on what constitutes a violation, like guests lighting off fireworks or parking where they are not allowed to park after we have given them instructions and rules to follow. How would this be handled with a residential property owner? A call to the resident. The same would be fair to an STR owner or property manager. Section 5, sub 8, sub D. Consider changing to a 30-day window after being notified of a violation to pay fees, taxes, or forfeitures owed to the village. Section 7, sub 5, sub A, sub B, and sub C. Pets. Totally agree with following municipal codes in place on all residences. Requirements. Why should STRs be signed out from private residents? How would a pet owner at an STR be going to church with their family if they cannot leave a pet inside the rental dwelling? It seems fair that this would be the same for all in the neighborhood. Section 7, sub E. Request you consider extending the 7-day notice to 30 days of notifying neighboring properties within 300 feet of the property owner resident agent change. Section 9B. Remedied a violation. Changed from immediately to 10-day window because some remediation may require a contractor. Section 9 is especially concerning to me. Most of us are extremely conscientious hosts. However, even the best hosts, no matter the screening process, can run into a guest who does not read or follow the rules. Section 9 of the ordinance is an issue of probability. Stay in business long enough and have enough guests. An event may occur no matter how vigilant the host or property owner. This could happen to any homeowner in the neighborhood. If there is an issue that needs to be addressed, A simple resident remedy can be to call the owner, and if it isn't remedied quickly, then it's a violation. But to have it be an automatic violation seems quite a different standard than others in the neighborhood have to follow. STR license fee, $500 is very high compared to other Door County STR license fees, which range from $45 to $300. I thought the law indicates that fees charged must be in relation to cost. We'd like to learn what costs will require this level of fees. Thank you for your time and consideration. Michael Surveys, 7675 Elm Point Road, Bailey's Harbor, Wisconsin. So that was that one. Then there was also a letter received from Mitch Ely. My name is Mitch Ely. My wife Katie and I have a deep connection and love for Door County and recently purchased a second home located in our favorite town, Sister Bay. While we have and will continue to use our home as a second home for us to visit and bring our family to Sister Bay, we also rent our property out as a short-term rental while we are gone. We are active members of the Door County Vacation Rental Association, who we are writing this message on behalf of. As Door County aims to address how best to properly manage the volume of visitors in Door County and what ordinances to put in place in each municipality, we want to be sure the voice of those who own short-term rentals is heard. We love Door County and our neighbors and want to be good neighbors and citizens. To that end, STR owners have formed the Door County Vacation Rental Association to provide education for owners and to partner with municipalities on STR-related issues. We have formed a nonprofit organization with the state and run a Facebook page, Home Sharing Hosts of Door County, with over 400 members. Our vision, our group's aim is to enhance home sharing experiences for hosts, neighbors, and guests through education, best practices in creating a more welcoming and equitable home sharing community. How we support our community. We maintain our relationships with our neighbors. It's important to note the vast majority of homes that host guests have wonderful relations with their neighbors. In fact, many of the neighbors rent those properties for special family gatherings. But as we all know, a percentage of bad apples can damage the reputation of the vast majority. And we also believe in the Door County Tourism Zone Good Neighbor policy. We hold ourselves accountable, just like you. We think those hosts that don't properly manage their properties well should be held accountable. We agree with noise, parking, and occupancy limitations and enforcement. We operate ethically. We believe in operating above the law by being permitted with DATCAT, Door County Tourism Zone, following ordinances and paying our taxes. We support the Door County economy. STRs make up over 30% of Door County room tax revenue. We also employ cleaners, property managers, plumbers, electricians, contractors, and other. We support folks working and living in Door County, and many of our group members live in Door County. As our group has worked with other towns, we found we have a lot in common and had significant agreement on how best to address issues brought to the town board's attention. Let us work with you to make the Sister Bay ordinance fair and effective. Here are some current concerns we have with the current proposed ordinances. And then Mr. Ely recites what Mr. Surveys did in his letter. In conclusion, he says, our group would like to be part of a solution for Sister Bay and request to work together with you to develop solutions that are well-informed and help advance our shared priorities. We'd be happy to share a model ordinance we've developed after working with other towns. We know mutually beneficial solutions that reflect what's best for all residents and guests in Sister Bay are achievable. Thank you for your time and consideration. Mitch Ely, on behalf of the members of the Door County Vacation Rental Association.
Thank you, Janelle. Do we have any comments or concerns from the public that anyone joining us tonight would like to express?
Raise your hand on this.
You can just raise your hand and we'll see it, Alan. Go ahead,
Can you hear
Alan.
me? Oh, I'm
Yep.
sorry. I didn't know my microphone was active.
All right, go ahead, Alan. And
Okay,
just
I
let us
appreciate
know your address as well. You
Okay.
state your name and address.
Yep. My name is Alan Kroll. I live at 10226 Woodcrest Road in Sister Bay, just outside the village. But we do own property. I'm talking to you right now on the internet from the vacation rental we have inside of Sister Bay off of Cardinal Court. We're local. We greet our guests when they come to our homes. We tell them about the local businesses that are here. We tell them about all the attractions that are in the area that they should take advantage of. We try to be ambassadors for Door County. For everybody that comes to our house, we personally meet them when they arrive. So one of the things that I'd like to say is, having being a good neighbor is important to me. Our guests being good neighbors is also very important. And as we move forward, through this process, I think a lot of us would like to have the opportunity to participate in helping to shape things and help everybody understand how it is we function and how we work within the community. So I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm just speaking for myself and my wife. We're here in the community. We're active in the neighborhood. We try to be the best neighbors we possibly can. We know the people around our home that we have for rent. We've personally met with them over time. We've never had an incident at our property. And we have a lot of very interesting families that come through our properties. We've had 90th birthday parties, for our family. Almost everybody comes to our home is a family coming to enjoy a vacation in Door County. We have never had a party house, and we really never want to have that type of environment. We're just trying to be good neighbors and be good participants in the community here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Any other comments or concerns from the public?
I just want to say a quick word.
Yes, Karen, and your
Hi.
address, your name and address, please.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Karen Barrett. I live in Bailey's Harbor at 8608 Moonlight Bay Drive. But I have 2 rental properties in Sister Bay, both of which are on Northwoods Drive, and we're real happy to have that. We've been there for 9 years or so with one and just finished building a new log cabin. Of interest, I'm also a business owner in this area. I own Harbor Fish Market and Grill in Bailey's Harbor and have been doing that gladly for 23 years. So I see the STR issue from both sides. I have to tell you that without STRs, even if I was not an owner, I would have a great deal of problem keeping customers in my restaurant. I'd probably guesstimate that about 50% of our guests are coming from STRs, are coming as family units up here to enjoy and experience it. I also serve on a lot of committees within the county, and I'm happy to do that, but can see it from all different angles. 2 of the things that I've read over the ordinance being prepared tonight really concern me. First one is as was mentioned before by Michael, is the pet issue. We are pet friendly and we do have guidelines for our pet owners, and they are quite severe. If you have a problem with our pet, we will be asking you to leave, that sort of thing. And we've had an issue with a neighbor at one point that was an issue, and we took care of it right away, I think, to their and our agreement that it was well done. Somebody let their pet off their leash, which is not something we do. And the second item that I'm kind of concerned about is the cost factor that's come up in this ordinance proposal. I have properties in Fish Creek, Egg Harbor, Bailey's Harbor, and Sister Bay. So I've applied for licenses in all those communities. I've heard that it's going to be up to $2,500 now, potentially, for an STR. I first heard $500, and that was concerning enough. I think it's going to deter a lot of people. I think it's going to create a problem that we don't need to have. Certainly, Sister Bay benefits from having some good neighbors like this. And I agree with regulations. I agree with guidelines. I agree with all of the zoning permits, and we do all the health department permits. I think that's a necessary thing to have. But to make it inaccessible or unrealistic for people who are just doing this as a part-time business just doesn't seem practical to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Kimberly, please state your full name and address. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Kimberly Hazen. I'm actually a permanent resident in Madison, but I'm also the landlord of the Stony Ridge Apartments on Ava Hope Court, and have a couple vacation rentals. Ava Hope Court is full-time renters, and there's no STR activity allowed in the lease, but I also have 2 short-term rentals in the area. I think this is just a really a balancing act between what's good for the community, what will keep everybody towing the line, which we have all expressed that's very, very important. And then also the really delicate balance of dissuading folks from actually doing STR business. And what I'm afraid of is, the fees being super high could deter that. And so if the ordinance is to deter and reduce the number of STRs in the area, you know, you guys probably know how to write it. Sevastopol wanted a 7-day minimum, and that would have killed, you know, the Door County beautiful weekends. But I think it's important to continue to remember that we're a community that offers a variety of lodging options, which is what brings people to Door County. There are folks that want to stay at the Scandinavian. There are folks that want to stay at the New Door. They want to have that hotel experience. They want folks to carry in their luggage, all that great stuff. And then there are families that, you know, for whatever reason, and some of it could be affordability, they want to be in a house. They want to be able to cook their meals. They want to run to the Piggly Wiggly and buy a bottle of wine and sit on the deck. It's a variety that we want to offer in Sister Bay and in Door County as a whole. And we want to be cognizant of the fact that ordinances can reduce some of that activity. And then if they want to stay in that type of lodging and they can't find that option in Sister Bay, they may go somewhere else, and they may actually go to Lake Geneva. So, I mean, we want to be careful that we're still able to offer the choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Any other comments this evening? Michael, go ahead.
Michael Survey, 7675 Elm Point Road. Thank you for taking the time to read in my letter. I just wanted to share, we've been in business for a long time, and we have a property on Kangaroo Lake that we rent, and another one in Fish Creek. And last year, we started sending our guest rules that they have to agree to with a contract. And we had a family scheduled for vacation, and they replied back. They ended up canceling the reservation and going someplace else. And I asked them why, and they basically said they've traveled all over the world and never had to comply with so many rules and regulations, and they felt uncomfortable coming to our property. So I totally understand where they're coming from, and so I would hope that you guys take some of that in consideration. We have to respect our guests, and you know, and I totally agree. You know, there's definitely rules and things that need to be put in place, but we can't overwhelm them with those type of things. And then also concerned about the cost of the fees. You know, anywhere from a couple $100 is definitely workable with us, but if you get up into that higher $2,500 range, that would be a challenge for many of the homeowners. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other commentary this evening?
Mitch has his hand raised, Rob.
Okay, Mitch?
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet everybody for those of you that I haven't met before, but my name is Mitch Ely. My wife, Katie, and I live down in Jackson, Wisconsin, down kind of by Milwaukee. So obviously you guys read out the letter that that we sent, and Michael sent a similar one. So I guess my only commentary is just that we obviously as hosts, and you've heard this from a lot of people, you know, we love Door County and want to be a part of the community in any way we can. And, you know, we're hopeful that you guys as a group will consider the feedback from our group in the drafting of this ordinance. So that's all that I have. I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Any other commentary this evening? Hearing none, I'm going to move us along in the agenda. I do not believe we have Dave Leno present, which means we would be skipping item number 1, the report on county activities. I do not see Dave connected, so we'll head right to agenda item number 2, discussion regarding an agreement with Mark Richard of Mr. Wildlife for domestic animal control services. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha, will you please take the lead on this one?
So I've attached the contract that is being proposed by Mark Richard. We've been working with Mr. Richard for a number of years And honestly, the last couple of years, we've been working without a contract. That puts Mark Richard at risk, as he does not carry separate insurance. He is considered an employee of ours, and therefore covered under our work comp. So if he would get bit by a dog when he is retrieving that dog, then we would be able to cover him. Without a contract stating that, obviously he's at risk. So the cost here is increased from what we've seen in the past. We do not use his services all that often. But as you can see, this is what is being proposed is it's $100 a month plus $35 per call with standard mileage and $12 for overnight care of an animal. We have never paid for overnight care of an animal to date, so I don't think that that's a common occurrence. So you're looking at about $1,200 to maybe $1,500 a year instead of around $600 a year.
Any questions for Tasha?
No, I have none.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're approving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3, discussion regarding the request from Voight Enterprises, DBA Country Walk BP, lease of Voight agent, that a Class A liquor license be issued for the property located at 2431 South Bayshore Drive for the period February 16th, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Heidi?
So as you know, Country Walk BP already has a Class A beer license. They've decided to expand their inventory and are requesting to sell intoxicating liquors at this time. It's a pretty standard request.
I will motion that we approve.
I'll make the motion.
I made the motion. We just need a second, Scott.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Skipping item number 4, as earlier noted. Item number 5, discussion regarding the village trustee compensation schedule and related ordinances, bylaws, and statutes. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. I'm going to turn this one over to Diane, our interim administrator.
Yeah, so this came up at a earlier meeting, and the board had asked me to look into correcting the issue or the matter. But Tasha had looked into it further, and actually the state statutes say that it can, we were thinking that it would go into effect after the next election, but it actually has to take place before the filing of papers. So nothing can be done with this until the next time for filing papers. So I'm proposing that we wait on it while we have more opportunity to review and figure out how to make the necessary changes, because at this point nothing can change anyway.
Okay, we'll take your recommendation to table until the appropriate time. Denise?
Would that appropriate time be after the election? I don't really want to push it off all the way till fall.
I agree, and I don't intend to go very far with it. The reason why I'm asking for a little bit more time is because at one point it was adopted by ordinance, a different time there's a resolution done, and once as a motion. So just because I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that, and so I just need a little bit more time, but I was thinking spring, early summer at the latest.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
So Heidi, if you can make a note to let's follow up with Diane prior to the April board meeting and have some status to present to the board on that, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Item number 6, discussion regarding the status of the technical assistance grant application that was submitted to the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission by Interim Administrator Diane Wessel with respect to updating the Village of Sister Bay 20-year comprehensive plan and comprehensive outdoor recreation plan consider a motion for action if appropriate. Diane?
So we ended up putting in a two applications. One is for, as we talked about at the board level, the last meeting regarding the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. If you may recall that in order to qualify for certain types of DNR recreational funding, whatever is to be funded must be in an adopted corp. And the village's comprehensive outdoor rec plan was last adopted in, I believe it was 14. So I submitted an application for Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission's assistance to this village for the update of that plan. And I also submitted I identified it as a second priority one of a site design, a conceptual site design for the property that the village recently purchased. Because sometimes the Regional Planning Commissions grant more than one technical assistance request, so I submitted both. The RPC has since contacted me and asked if the village would prefer to have, if the village was granted this, would the village prefer to have all 40 hours allotted to the one project, or would the village prefer to have 20 hours for each of the submitted applications? So that's what I'm bringing to the board to find out if there's a preference.
Denise?
I thought at last month's meeting that we talked about splitting those hours to get the ball rolling on each of them.
I agree.
Originally, the one that we had talked about at the last meeting was, I'm trying to remember, I thought we had talked about the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. But I guess I may have misunderstood it, as I thought that the comprehensive plan was a lower priority because of the property that the village had recently purchased and then the need for the corp. So I apologize if I was presumptuous and got that wrong, but I didn't have the comprehensive plan, the big one that had all of the 9 elements, the land use, all of those different parts of it. I did not have in there. That's the one that we were going to submit a grant for in the fall in 2020, August of 22. So this other one came up where we were thinking, when I say we, as in with staff, just talking about a little about that property that was purchased. So again, I apologize if I got that wrong the last time we had talked some about the comp plan.
Denise?
My recollection is because we're going to file in the fall for the larger grant for the 20-year comp plan, but there was some preliminary work that we could get done now that would move things along that process. And I believe I talked about that the outdoor rec plan was only 27 pages long, and that we probably only needed a small amount of help on that, maybe some technical assistance, but otherwise, most likely Parks, Property and Streets Committee can probably revamp that once we get some technical assistance on our own. And just because it's such a smaller document, that it's less cumbersome and definitely less technical than the 20-year comprehensive plan. So I really thought that we were going to try to split it 2020, get done as much as what we could on each of them, and then wait until the fall to apply for the larger grant for the 20-year comp, and hopefully by fall have the outdoor rec updated and implemented.
And now that you mention that, I do recall that. I think I got that wrong. So I unfortunately did not put in for the larger comprehensive plan. So I guess my suggestion, I see your point on the corp being a smaller undertaking. So maybe split the corp, and then the other one that I had put in was for the conceptual design, because we don't, in-house, we don't have the expertise or the software for that. So I would suggest we split it for those two, because unfortunately I made a mistake and I did not put it in for the comprehensive plan. But I did direct them to put in the grant application on behalf of the village in August 22. So that was, I apologize, that was my mistake.
Do we have consensus among board members that we can proceed with that two-path approach?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So we have the outdoor rec plan, and then what did you call the other for the 56 acres?
Conceptual design.
Conceptual design.
And again, I apologize for having made that error.
Okay. Because I do not, and Chad is not with us tonight. I do not know where land acquisition is. I thought after last month's meeting that 3 meetings were supposed to be scheduled. I don't know where they are at, and on coming with a recommendation to Parks and eventually to the board. Does anybody else know that?
No, but I don't, I feel certain from the meetings we were at together, when we joined in with them and what's happened since, that they don't have any type of conceptual design in place. They don't have anyone who's a member of the committee working on that. So I, regardless of the fact that we're not quite sure of their status as of this time, I think conceptual design and any grant money we could get towards it for that technical design expertise Diane mentioned would be necessary.
And I agree with all of that, Rob. My question is, because this committee we created it a year ago.
Mhm.
And I think that Parks, Property and Streets should have some recommendations at this point in time on what their vision is. I understand that they wouldn't have a conceptual design, but have they narrowed it down yet to what it is that they want to see there? And if they have yet to do that in a year's period of time, I'm just wondering, are they going to get it done in this year to use those 20 hours of conceptual design? I mean, maybe Heidi can answer me. Were all 3 of those meetings scheduled, and did they meet this month?
So the meetings were scheduled. They had their first meeting here in February. The March meeting, Chad would like to address recreational uses of the property. And then for April, the plan was to start talking about working with Bay Lakes Regional Planning Commission to come up with a design. So he has, those 2 meetings planned. I don't know after that, what's going to be the result of that April meeting before it would come to Parks.
Okay, Miles is on that committee. I think he's raising his hand, Rob.
Miles,
I'll make this quick. Just a request, if you could, if you want to do that, I think a conceptual design, someone to steer that would be really good for our committee. I'm not the chair or anything, but I think that people would like that. And I think I and other members of the committee would love a deadline. If you want to say, here, have a recommendation by here, and then we'll have these people work with you. That might make that ball move even faster. So that's my 2 cents.
well, I mean, certainly we'll have a deadline. If nothing is forthcoming at the committee's initiative, we'll, upon the conclusion of that April meeting, we'll set a certain time limit.
Yeah, that might be a good thing to do, is say, come back with your recommendation
Yeah.
by X date. And
Yeah, so I would say you can take that back to the committee, Miles, when you reconvene in March, and just say, the general idea from the February board meeting is that the board will be expecting a plan, certainly soon after the April meeting, which gives you time to get everyone on the thought process. Does that sound reasonable?
I think so.
Okay.
Give us something to move it toward you
Yeah.
guys, so you guys know where it's going. So
Okay. And then Diane, with a time frame like that, does that allow us to move for those dollars that would then, I mean, if we put the time in to go for those conceptual design dollars now, would we be expecting to receive that money before May? And would we be expecting some sort of a deadline? Is it you have to use it in the calendar year in which you're granted the money, or?
Well, and you're not granted money, you're granted an allotment of time of the
Yeah.
professional staff's time. And they were hoping that I got the impression that they were hoping that the conceptual design would be in the latter half of the year. So I think that would seem to work well with the village's schedule.
Yeah, I think we'd be finally positioned to, head into summer knowing there were 20 hours of that support granted, to
And I
use.
did tell them too that that the village would like the comprehensive outdoor rec plan work early, because that's something that is pressing you'd like to get done so that you have eligibility for grants. And then my thought was that this conceptual design, that all of that would leave you in a very good position to apply for grants.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, item number 7. Discussion regarding the recommendation from the Plan Commission that the village board pass and adopt ordinance number 289021522, which annexes lands that are commonly referred to as the Wiltsey property to the village of Sister Bay, and indicates that the zoning district designation for all of the land to be annexed shall be I1 industrial. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Denise?
Rob, you used a horrible word, institutional. Not industrial. We have no industrial zoning in the village.
I apologize.
That's my fault. I typed the wrong word.
All right, so it's I1 industrial, and thank you for catching me. All right. Let the record show I'm 6 days away or 6 days into post-hip replacement, so if I get a marker on that.
I'm sorry, Rob, did Randy review this?
I haven't given him this version, but this is his original, just with the deletion of those other 2 zoning district options.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 8, discussion regarding the draft of an ordinance that addresses short-term rentals of dwellings in the village of Sister Bay. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Do we have discussion from board members on review of the most recent version of the draft? Denise?
I know Heidi gave us a short board report. What she didn't state in there that I would like to share is that Vivian was the only one who submitted comments or changes to that document. Did not hear from any of the other board members. I did redline some things that she suggested. And I wrote in other places where it was her recommendation that we delete something for conversation.
Okay.
And I do, as we work through the document, I do have a couple of other things to discuss. So.
Would you like to proceed section by section, Denise, and then anyone with comments on each section can voice them in that manner?
Sure, we can just start right on page 1.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions from board members on page 65 of the packet, representing essentially section 2, the purpose, changes noted there? And if by chance anyone had comments that were not previously made on section 3 and section 4, which flows into page 66 of our packet, now would be the time to voice those.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move to page 66. So under section 5A, I wrote Vivian suggested deleting. I don't think that we should delete that. Because the Tourism Zone Commission states that you need a license even if you rent your home for one night a year.
I concur. I believe it should remain.
I'll agree with that also.
Actually, looking at it, when I went through the packet, I was like, what was I thinking? So, sorry. I think my thought was, if it's already required in another one, we shouldn't do it again, sort of thing. But yeah, this is for our, basically saying, yeah, you need a license for us. I think it's just frustrating because this eliminates somebody who just, say, going out of town for a week wants to rent their house just for that 1 week. It makes it kind of crazy. But if that's the way the county tourism zone license goes, it makes sense.
Okay. I did highlight B2, I think in Heidi's summary, where a couple of people had contacted her and voiced some concerns. I do think B2 could be deleted. The statement that was made, or wait. Oh, no, that had to do with a DAT cap saying that they couldn't get to inspecting for 3 to 5 years. To me, that is unacceptable. So I think I had an idea. I called Janelle today about that. And my idea was that if DAT cap cannot come and inspect, that we ask our current building inspector, Brett, to see if he would be interested in that job. And Janelle did get a hold of him. He did say that he was interested in that. He did say that he needed to contact DATCP to make sure that it would be okay with them, and that he would do it on an hourly basis. Granted, a 2-bedroom home would be smaller and quicker to inspect than, you know, a 6-bedroom home or something like that. And that fee would, you know, later on be determined. So that is what I know about that.
So then you're saying to go ahead and keep it, Denise, or to?
No, it totally would have to be reworded.
Okay, all right, so moving forward, then we're saying B2 would be rewritten.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else of note on this page that you want to reference, Denise?
They're also in Heidi's report, or maybe it wasn't a letter, I cannot remember. There was a comment about adding something to this section about a time frame for a right to cure. So for the owners to have time to fix the issue. And I thought that that had some merit, and would want to possibly add that to this section.
Sounds good to me.
So any other comments from the board on 66?
No.
Okay. So we go to 67. And B and C under section 6, Vivian suggested deleting both of those. I could not remember when I was going through my notes of last month's meeting, and Chad had questioned the BTR, and all I wrote down was BTR, and for the life of me, I could not remember when I was editing the document on comments and conversation from last month's meeting until after I had sent it to Heidi. So Chad's point is that if they are with a resident agent, they should not have to register with the state and receive a business tax registration number. That is what the resident agent would already have that. So I would suggest that adding some verbiage, changing that around, that if it's, that you need that if you're not working with a resident agent.
And that the village would receive confirmation in either case.
Right, right.
Right. Okay.
I think that my point there was, I thought Chad had said they already need that for the tourism zone license, so they would already have it.
No,
Without Chad, I don't know.
that's was not my understanding. He said that was more cumbersome, that they would have to deal with 70 BTRs.
Okay.
That's what I remember. Does anybody else recollect?
I recall it as you do, Denise.
Scott, you're shaking your head.
I don't, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. Okay, and then C, each rental application will be shared with the Village of Sister Bay's assessor for personal property tax assessment. So Vivian, you can explain your comment on why you wanted to see that deleted.
I guess that's a comment because I didn't understand why it was there.
Like any other business, we pay taxes on what is not attached to the building. And so if you are running a business out of your home, then why would your personal property not be taxed like any other business?
Okay.
And I have been updating that list with our assessor annually. They send me a list of who they feel should be getting assessed for personal property. And I go through it and I send them notifications if anyone is missing from that list.
Okay.
Okay,
In my opinion, it should remain in there as written.
I'm fine with that. I just, yeah, it was one of those things unless I understood.
I'll agree.
Okay. All right, so then under E, this was in somebody, a comment somewhere, that the tourism zone shall provide proof of such license by attaching a copy to the initial license application and subsequent renewal applications. That was questioned. They only file once with the tourism zone, so it kind of made no sense to keep attaching it to every other application. So I would suggest the sentence end with initial license application and delete and subsequent renewal applications.
Okay,
Sounds good.
I'll agree.
So the one of the big changes, as we found out through chat and conversation last month, is 7.2. The wording in there that, you know, the state does not dictate occupancy. So the only thing that we can reference for occupancy would be parking requirements. And that has been one of the largest complaints of neighbors in the neighborhood on these houses that have X amount of bedrooms, so many cars, not enough parking space to hold all the cars in a driveway. And so therefore, that is how we would dictate occupancy, or how many cars can just actually be there, how many spaces they have. Because I know that there is, I believe it is on the corner of Birchwood and Scandia, a constant problem. And when Bo was still here, they were always parking at that intersection, creating a problem with a vision triangle. The road is narrow to begin with. They had too many cars there. He would go there on quite a few weekends. He would ticket people. you know, that was just a really big safety issue, that particular home.
Okay.
Does anyone have any issue with the way it's revised as Denise has outlined?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, I do as well.
In there too. I think we need it.
And then there was just on number 4, right below that. I don't know why chapter 7 was in there, but I just a typo or something. It's actually chapter 400 of the zoning code. So that was brought up. So then on page 68, Chad made the argument that on number 8, all STRs must follow state and federal anti-discrimination regulations and ADA compliance. And Chad said that every hotel or motel or whatever may or may not have handicap rooms, but certainly not all of them had to be handicap accessible. I don't know if there's a certain criteria if you have a hotel or not, but with his comments on that, I chose, he made a really good point, and it was unfair, and therefore I struck it from the document.
Okay.
That's fine.
Also on that same page, he talked about, you know, insurance should, we don't ask a hotel what kind of liability insurance they have, so therefore we should not ask or require proof of liability insurance on an STR. So that was stricken.
Okay.
The property owner or agent must report or submit a monthly report was deleted. That is not necessary. And then I did add in signs depicting the short-term rental property shall not exceed 2 square feet. So that kind of follows other guidelines within the zoning code, and thought if somebody did want to put a sign out, that would give them the opportunity to, a lot of them go by certain names on websites on what they call their STR. So I thought that would, even though I don't want to see more signs, that would be fair.
Okay.
And then effectively, then this would direct any current signage that is larger than 2 square feet to be downsized.
I don't know if any STRs do have.
I believe on Forest Lane, there's one that has a sign that's much larger than 2 square feet.
Okay. I haven't driven that road in a long time, so okay.
Yeah. So, and that, I guess that's where my question is coming from. And would there be some sort of inherent grandfathering in of current signs, or would this make it necessary for someone to downsize their sign? It would appear so.
No, I don't believe that there would be any grandfathering pertaining to this. And maybe they didn't, we would have to investigate this. I certainly, as Plan Commission Chair, do not remember approving any sign. So most likely they did it without a sign permit application. So that would be an illegal sign.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then just kind of revamped H, took E away, added it up to A, again, talking about parking. So with those changes, did anybody else have any other questions or changes that they would like to see?
I just have a general question on parking, and it kind of applies to the Scandi issue. Is there any way, if we chose to, that we could require the property owner to clarify their expectation that on-street parking, that their guests will be parking on the street.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, and I'm the owner of the house on Scandia and Birchwood. So that's probably.
Right, I'm aware of that, Kaylee. Hello.
Hi, so we are aware of one instance that there was parking on the street. We have in our welcome packet and like very strict about making sure that people are parked in the driveway and not anywhere near the road. And there was a visit from Bo in which he talked to the renters that were there, and we talked to him because there was not a street sign that said no parking for the renters. So we asked about that. So sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate you clarifying that, Kaylee. And as we said earlier, we're not during this point on the agenda, we're not engaging discussion with citizens. I would.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would clarify for you that when I said, the point I'm making pertains in part to the Scandia location reference. There's other locations within the village it pertains to when there's significant activity that parking begins, on-street parking is used. And so my question for my fellow trustees is, do we need to, want to, would we be permitted to, or think it would be beneficial just for smooth operations in the village to know throughout that application process that, for instance, here's how many off-street parking spaces I have, but based on how many people I can rent to, I may be having some guests park on the street.
Diane has her hand up, so maybe she
Diane?
can answer that question.
Well, and actually mine isn't related to parking, as I just wanted to make a comment that you might want to rework the wording of the signs depicting the short-term rental property, just because I think it could be questioned with the Reed versus Gilbert case, because technically that would be content-based.
But we can dictate size.
Yes, you can. I'm just saying that the wording needs to be a little bit different, because by saying signs depicting short-term rental property, that phrase is content-based, because you'd have to read it in order to figure out that's what it is.
Okay.
What about signs identifying short-term rentals?
Yeah, so it's just something that and I can try to come up with some wording, but I just
Okay.
wanted to just identify that as that you might want to, I would suggest changing the wording of that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us of that.
So, and then if no one else has thoughts relating to my question on parking, that's fine. We can just move along.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to think about, Rob.
And where I'm going from it on is I'm saying from a smooth operation standpoint, that for instance, somebody has a short-term rental. There's sufficient, people permitted to rent there. A group comes in and they know, as the owner, if a group that size comes in, they're going to be parking on the street, simply so that we would know, or that it's known to the staff, so that if calls would start coming in saying, hey, how come I've got all these cars parking on the street? Then it's real simple. Heidi or staff can, look at the applications and say, well, that those are, cars related to that, rental property on your street, so that people would at least know what's going on, and we would know.
Yeah, but we don't want that to happen, is the point.
Well, then
It was just.
that's where I'm going as well. Then if we're, if we want to know that parking is going to be off street, and if we're going to require parking to be off street, then I
So
think
you
we
do
need to,
have in you do have in section 7 that it's going to be off-street parking, 7.4. Do you want to maybe add, please submit a parking plan with your application?
what page are you referring, Heidi, what page of the packet are you referring to?
I'm sorry, I don't have the packet.
68.
67. Section
It's under,
7.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's a good point, Heidi. We might have to add under 2, we might have to add that we would require a parking plan. And that way to know if they're complying with section 400.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay,
Excellent.
yep, good job.
I think we can move on to section 8, Denise, right? Or,
Yeah, I'm just writing some notes so I can make
Okay.
all the changes. Yes, section 8. So whether it was Jeff Sanders or the zoning attorney, I cannot remember which one, that reviewed the first draft of the STR. They had questioned whether the fines were enough, that their experience, and I don't know if fines are, if we're allowed to insert, any dollar amount, or if like the other fines, village leverages is pertaining to state statute. Diane, can you answer that?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
For a violation, we have $500 and $1,000 in as a fine. And I couldn't remember if it was Jeff Sanders, the zoning guy, or the other guy who I can't remember his name, the zoning attorney, that said, if your fees are not high enough, it has been, a lot of people just pay the fine over and over and over again, because they can afford to do so, and it's not detrimental to their business.
That is
So
true.
there are some fines that the village implements, but that is restricted by state statute. Would this apply to that also?
I'd have to look into it more. Typically, fines for violations have a lot more discretion than fees for services kind of things. So the fine I would have to look into more, but that is, I would agree with whoever's made that comment, whether it be the attorney or Jeff Sanders. Another thing a lot of municipalities do is that they have a scale where the first offense is this, the second offense is, and then start escalating with each subsequent offense. That's a common way to deter repeat offenders from just keep on paying the fines. And that's really common.
Okay, all right, so that may be something is, with Diane stating that, is that something that the board would be interested in implementing a scale for offenses once she would get clarification on what those fees would be?
sounds like a good idea.
Agree.
I'll go along with that, yep.
Okay. So does anybody have anything else on page 69?
Just one comment, and I typed this in the chat box, is that you guys had talked about regarding a parking diagram that actually
Yes.
looks like section 8, item C already in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It says a diagram of the property identifying the property lines and the location of off-street parking including the maximum number of off-street parking spaces provided for renters.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
you can go.
So page 70, now we get to the fees. And originally $500 was inserted. And at last month's meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion on why are we writing this? And Chad was asking that question and he said, are we writing it just to write it? And I said, no. I said, the biggest complaint that I receive as a trustee are issues that neighbors have with their STRs. And that there is no accountability, no one they can call other than the police. And maybe sometimes the police don't even want to, show up for a particular call, or there's nothing that they can do about it. And so some of those bad apples, or bad renters, just kind of get away with it. So it's really all about accountability and keeping our residential neighborhoods residential. We had no choice when the legislature passed Act 67 or 51 or whichever one it is, I cannot remember, that stated that this would be allowed in all residential districts. And so I think in the beginning, it didn't seem so bad, but now that more and more homes are being bought at inflated prices, people are using them as STRs, creating more congestion. I also understand what everybody who spoke under comments and correspondence earlier tonight, that these people do put money back into the economy, which is true, but how much can any one community handle? And home prices were already high before. And so there was a lot of conversation on how do we do more? And I know for workforce housing, people that live here year round and are trying to make a life here, that want to stay here, that work in the service industry. And also, it was stated in a letter, or maybe somebody also said it earlier under comments, was that, a lot of local people are hired to do the cleaning and other work. I have no idea what kind of wages those are. If those are good paying jobs, how many hours a week anyone cleaning these homes is actually getting, especially if it's a weekly rental. So the conversation was, by upping it to $2,500, is taking that $2,000 additionally and putting it towards a workforce housing fund to offset, I don't want to say some of the damage that's been done, but for the lack of a better word, sorry, that seems a little negative. Trying to solve some of our bigger problems so we can keep younger people here, young families, and have a workforce that we can count on. So for all those listening, that is where that dollar amount came from. It was not decided exactly if we wanted to do that, but Chad also kept saying, there has to be a bigger purpose for us. And if we were to do that, that would be I think there's 68, 70 STRs in the village from my memory from when we get minutes from the tourism zone. So, and even if I'm off, if they're 60, that's $120,000 a year that we could possibly do something with. And I don't want to dive deep into this on whether we should or we shouldn't. We're going to talk about it under legal matters in closed session, and I think we can have a broader conversation there where everybody can, we can hear what Diane has to say and have other commentary about those fees.
And I would just add to that, those of us can recall in prior meetings, we've had committee members who are professional, a professional realtor committee member, as well as other realtors, give feedback to committees and board members regarding the propensity of calls coming in to the village and to real estate businesses being most predominantly related to, I want to buy a house to make into a short-term rental. We've had commentary significantly from real estate professionals, et cetera, saying it's the #1 force that's driving home prices to routinely sell above asking price and drive higher and higher asking prices. From my standpoint, to shape, my sentiment a little differently than the way Denise expressed hers. Well, I agree with everything she said. From my standpoint, in supporting that amount of the fee, the $2,500, for the reasons noted, to do something for affordable housing, in my mind, I don't believe in that in terms of deterring STRs. I don't look at that as a number that's come up to deter STRs. I solely look at it as an appropriate fee based on the average gross revenue that most of the STRs are going to do. I respect and appreciate hearing, some commentary this evening about the not great frequency of particular properties, and how, it might be rented 1 or 2 weeks a year. And I understand that. I appreciate those comments, but the bottom line is the people that are driving the real estate market mad up here are not inquiring about wanting to own a home for short-term rental that they're only going to rent for a week or 2 a year. When you look at the average gross, if you just take a look at, what average rentals are as listed in all the advertising, and through a general knowledge of how often there's people there through the season, it's easy to get a frame of reference that for the vast majority of short-term rental owners, it's not going, having a fee of $2,500 versus $500 is not going to cause them to need to cease being a short-term rental. That is my opinion. Again, I don't in any way, in supporting that amount of a fee, I do not in any way look at it as trying to deter STRs. I look at it as charging them appropriately based on the revenue coming in. Yes, Denise.
And just to piggyback on what you were saying, the research that I did earlier today on some websites, and most places in July and August, which is the highest rate charged, it would, the average home was charging $2,500 a week. Some were over 4,000. Larger homes, larger occupancy. So some people, it would be a half a week, and that would be the cost of doing business. Or if it's a smaller home, it's 1 week. So I also think that it is a fair cost of business, trying to address the severe workforce housing situation that we are in. But like I said, we'll also talk about more of that in closed session.
Chad,
Yeah, guys, sorry I wasn't here. I just catching that last part. I'm hopefully I missed it, but what's the plan with that money?
That has workforce doing something for workforce housing, which we would have yet to determine how that would all work, what would have to be set up. I mean, it just in an off the cuff conversation that I had with Rob today, and he's like, we can take that $120,000 a year and build a house a year on the 14 lots that the village has.
And things like that I'm great with. I just don't want us to not have that in place before something, because if it's not in place, and I want to be a part of that conversation, because I know I've dropped that idea before. It needs to be in place before we pass it. Otherwise, I would never be for it.
Absolutely, Chad. It's got to be, and that's not just to have it in place for the vote, but to ensure that it's known this is where we're heading.
And to go back to the market, just what I caught on there's also plenty of smaller places that rent for $900 a week. And granted, we all feel like those homes should be year-round housing, but they're also homes that people bought with the hopes to retire in, that they can't afford a home that can rent for $5,000 a week. So we just have to be very conscientious that, there's been a lot of people that have done this for a lot of years, long before there was the perceived problem that will be forced out of it and be forced to probably sell their house. Just be aware of that, right? It's not everybody just came in the last 2 years, gobbling these up, driving the rates up. There's been people that bought these homes, that extended themselves to buy these homes as a way for them to justify being able to get a piece of Door County, like we all have a piece of Door County, and be able to retire here one day. And that will change for a lot of those people. And a lot of those people are us, right? They're not the ultra rich. They're not somebody that's just disconnected from this community. You just got to be cognizant of that. It's a lot deeper story than finding a couple rates online and how much you think people are getting. These are my clients. I've had a lot of these clients for a lot of years, and almost none of mine are straight up investors. And the ones that are straight up investors, there's like 5 rentals we have, and those are not affordable homes. They're not even close. So it's a lot of people that this is their way to hopefully get a piece of Door County. And it's, it's part of the story that needs to be told.
Okay. So then I also thought that there was a valid issue made under correspondence pertaining to pets, and because I didn't have that highlighted in my document, I would like to suggest that we also delete the pet issue, that they cannot leave it in the STR. I thought that was a valid point made, and so then delete that out of there and let whether it's pet friendly or not, let the owners of the STR dictate their rules for pets.
Other than they have to be on a leash.
Out, yes, right. We do have a leash law. Yep. Mm-hmm. So then with all of those changes, I will revamp the document again and bring it back next month.
That sounds great, Denise. Thank you very much for your excellent efforts leading this.
Thanks, Rob.
Denise, I'll look, excuse me, I'll look into that fines question you had, and I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Diane.
Okay, moving along, item number 9, I have no recommended committee and commission appointments at this time. So we'll move to item number 10, review of the financial statements and consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills. Do we have any trustees with questions for Tasha this evening?
I'm sorry, I did not call Tasha about this today, so I do have a couple of questions. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
That's okay.
Page 75, the last entry, Robert E. Lee Construction Administration, 4,600.
That's related to the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. That's
Okay.
pretty standard.
Okay. I don't, and then on page 76, the lodge, $878, TKH advertising. I don't know who's in charge of the advertising out there. But at my business downtown Sister Bay, across from the marina, I cannot get the lodge in. I don't know why. And so I listen to The Goat, which comes in perfect, which I think is coming from Sturgeon Bay. Great music, by the way. So I was just wondering, because I know a lot of people listen to that also, if whoever is doing that advertising, if they possibly want to expand or not, you know, splitting it up, just, I mean, making a phone call I don't know if Cody is doing it.
Cody is handling the advertising for the ice rink for sure.
Okay. So I just thought it was just a
You can
suggestion.
pass that along.
Okay.
Sounds like, yeah. Sounds
And
like-
what he does with that is up to him. Janelle, did you get a new laptop?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
This one was really slow.
And is it like a regular laptop or one of the Surfaces like ours?
It's a regular laptop.
Okay. All right. And then, let's see. Page 78. Anthem Blue Cross. We have a February premium of almost $20,000 and then a March premium of only $16,000. Loss of employee.
Yep. So February's premium, there was Anthem made an error in transferring one of our employees over and dropped a dependent. And so one of those is a makeup for one, and then there's an employee that came off of it and a dependent that came off of it. So then there's credits back for previous months.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all that I had.
I just have one question for you, Tasha.
Yeah.
Snow thrower, $549. And snow blower parts, $70.94. Does that mean we needed a new snow blower? And then we're also still repairing an old one, or the repairs on the old one led us to say no more parts, we're buying a new one?
No, those would be two separate snow machines. One a new purchase of a small snow thrower and one repair on a different one.
So when we have, and that's for the ice rink or for general village use?
No, that would be for the Parks and Streets Department or
Okay.
Public Works Department, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Tasha this evening? Hearing none, I will motion that we approve the monthly bills as noted in Tasha's report.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Committee reports. Administrative Committee, no update. Communication Technology Committee,
We haven't met.
okay. Coastal Byways,
Everything's going as planned.
okay.
Nothing-
DCEDC, I don't see Nate, and I know Nate is no longer a part of it. I will just clarify that regarding the current vacancy for a trustee to be assigned to DCEDC, we will wait until, I will be waiting until after the April election to make that determination and pass it along to the board at that time. Emergency Management Plan Committee.
We're never going to meet, Rob.
Okay, we can, that's fine. Finance,
Has not met.
Okay. Fire Board meets Friday. Ad hoc Friends of Pebble Beach.
I haven't met.
Green Tier Legacy Committee meets Monday. Historical Society.
We met on Thursday, the 3rd. We have a History Center fundraising update was given to us by Jill Loest, discussed membership mailings, planning for the 2022 season. That pretty much covers the meeting.
Thank you, Scott. Ad hoc Land Acquisition Committee.
I had a meeting last week. It was a productive meeting. We had Emil from the post office who, gave us a lot of background information on if, what, how we would go about it, if something would happen for us to build an administration building with a post office attached to it on the Wiltsey property. So I feel like it's, we learned a lot. There's still a ways to go. The next meeting, we're going to talk about recreation, and then I'm hoping to kind of turn it over to that firm we hired, start doing some preliminary, ballpark drawings for us to give us something to dream about.
And in that regard, Chad, this evening before you joined on, I believe we had Miles weigh in on a few things, and we clarified that considering you're going to be meeting again in March and then April, there's some technical assistance design grants that Diane will be working towards attaining that would be essentially usable if granted to us, later in the year. And that we asked Miles, if we did not hear from you tonight, to pass along to you and the rest of the committee members that essentially we'd be looking as a board to hear about a plan, your summary plan as to where things are at this point in time after your April meeting,
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. Library Commission.
I believe you have the minutes and the librarian's report. She had asked us to notice in the figures that because we're paying to have the library open on Thursdays, that it actually does get quite a bit of use on Thursdays. So just other than that comment, everything's there in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Rob,
Yes,
I have a question on that.
yes.
I don't know if I've missed it on review and approve the bills for the library, but is the Department of the Treasury Medicare something new? I don't remember seeing that. On page 81.
Yeah, I don't, from my tenure back in time on the Library Commission, I don't have recollection of a charge like that.
Could it be that the new employee is younger and has to pay into Medicare?
But
Is
why
maybe
would
the-
our library be footing that bill?
It looks like Social Security, Medicare, it's just FICA tax.
But why are we paying that?
The village always pays those expenses.
We're an employer. We pay half, employee
Yeah.
pays half.
Yeah. So that
I
must
just
be
don't
what
remember
we're,
them being on the report of the bills before.
I'll have to go back and look.
It's probably just lumped with payroll. Maybe.
that's probably why I don't remember it.
But there's no payroll on here either.
Right,
Oh,
No.
because that would come from Tasha, right?
right.
No,
No.
no, I don't pay the library employees.
Okay, well, then I
Vivian,
would
does this have
ask,
to do with Ralph's replacement?
I
Yeah,
don't think so.
Well, we'll check into it and find out.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
Thank you.
think it might have something to do with Ralph's replacement and what's splitting up between the town and the village on their shares of that. Okay. Thank you, Vivian. I do not see Pat with us yet, so Marina Committee will take a pass. Not having Pat with us.
Yeah,
Marina,
the minutes are in there, Rob, if I
yeah,
can try and
Yeah.
answer any questions if
yeah,
anybody has some.
yeah, we're
can I
good.
interrupt for 1 minute? Scott, what did you say about the Historical Society? I missed that.
Let me look at my notes here. Had a History Center update from Jill Loest. Planning for the 2022 season, and we discussed sending out a membership mailing.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Marina Fest, Scott?
Has not met, Rob.
Ad hoc Outdoor Rec and Transportation Plan Commission, Nate will be leading this for us. And for those of you who are aware of it from the last Parks meeting, the town of Liberty Grove agreed to join the village in meetings to begin proactively and productively moving forward with the topic of roads, expansion of roads, widening of roads, bike lanes, pedestrian walkways, etc. And so that meeting will be, their first meeting will be happening later this month. And ultimately then that'll roll under this new committee designation, which will report back up to Parks. Speaking of Parks, Property and Streets, we'll meet again on March 7th. Personnel Committee has not met since our last meeting. Plan Commission, Denise.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
And to just, yeah, that is, I was correct to say Personnel Committee has not met since our last meeting. SBAA, beyond what's in the packet, I would just mention that Louise announced that we officially have our new, SBA has our new assistant coordinator. Ellie Soderberg is joining the team. She was previously the full-time coordinator for Bailey's Harbor, and she is coming on board to be Louise's assistant. She'll be out on some maternity leave, but the expectation at this time is Louise is targeting May 1st for a start date for Ellie. From everything we hear, this is a big win for the village and for SBAA. And certainly Louise deserves a lot of the congratulations for, you know, running a vibrant organization the way she does, that there's interest in a person of this caliber to come join us. Tourism Zone Commission meets Thursday. Utilities has not met. Youth Center has not met. Do we want a motion to accept committee reports, Janelle?
Yep.
I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, consider a motion to convene into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C to consider employment promotions, compensations, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Wisconsin statute 19.851E to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conduct other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and Wisconsin statute 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. At 7:40 p.m., I motion that we move into closed session.
Second.
Janelle, will you handle roll call, please?
Sure. Baker,
Aye.
Berto,
Yes.
Kadunkel,
Yes.
Nino,
Yes.
and Zashki.
Yes. so we are now in closed session, and Heidi, if you could move.
Second.
Roll call, Janelle, please.
Bertle,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Nino,
Yes.
Kadanko,
Yes.
and Zashki.
Yes. Okay, we are back in open session, and I am going to ask Janelle to read our first motion.
Okay, that the village board authorizes the amendment of the expenditure of $460,000 for infrastructure costs related to the multifamily attainable housing development that Mosaic Development will be constructing on the 12.6 acre lot in the Stony Ridge development that has been assigned parcel number 181510002A that will be known as the Shoals to $600,000.
So moved.
Second.
Question,
Okay.
Janelle, the
Uh-huh.
12.6 was for the entire parcel. They split that into 3.
Okay. So should
So
I
I
just say
wouldn't-
on the lot?
Yes,
Okay,
because you have the parcel number, right?
yeah,
The new parcel number for the CSM split?
I don't have that yet. On one of the lots, should I see?
Yes,
Okay. Because there's 3, aren't there?
yes.
Okay. Lots. Okay, so that one, you just have to take a vote on that then, Rob.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And Janelle, if you would please read the second motion.
That the village board passes and adopts ordinance number 294-021522 that repeals section 3.2 of chapter 3 of the Village of Sister Bay Code of Ordinances, and also directs staff members to see that section 4 sub D is deleted from the Village of Sister Bay Committee, Commission, bylaws, and rules of order in its entirety.
I'll make
So
a motion.
moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any item at this time to note for a future agenda? Other than what was discussed this evening? Hearing none, before I motion to adjourn, I told staff earlier, I just want to tell my fellow trustees, thank you very much for the cards that came in the mail. Genuinely appreciated very much. Thank you. And with that, at 10:07 PM, I motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Rob, are you going to talk to Diane now?